Chinua Achebe's short story, Chike's School Days, is a light-hearted yet poignant narrative that examines the intersections of colonial education, cultural identity, and the power of language. Told from a third-person perspective, the story follows Chike, a young Igbo boy growing up in colonial Nigeria, as he navigates the world of school, family, and language. Achebe uses humor, irony, and rich cultural context to portray the influence of missionary education on African children. Chike is born into a family that is already entangled in the cultural shifts of colonial society. His father, Amos, is a deeply devout Christian who converted from traditional Igbo religion. Amos's conversion led him to reject the customs of his people, particularly the practice of the Osu caste system, a form of social exclusion where certain people, the Osu, are seen as spiritually impure and untouchable. Amos's decision to marry an Osu woman was met with scandal and disapproval from his extended family and community. Despite their alienation, Amos remains firm in his Christian beliefs, teaching his children to follow Christian doctrine and to look down on traditional beliefs as pagan. Chike, their only son, is raised in this strict, religious household. He is taught to pray, obey the missionaries, and reject all traditional customs and practices. However, unlike his father, Chike is not burdened with guilt or conflict. He is innocent and joyful, curious about the world around him and, above all, enchanted by words and language. From an early age, Chike loves to listen to the songs and prayers taught by the missionaries. He is fascinated by the sound of English, even if he doesn't always understand the meaning. Words like periwinkle, constellation, and pleiotropic thrill him. He repeats them not for their definition, but for their musical rhythm and mystery. For Chike, language becomes a form of play, a source of magic. When he begins school, Chike quickly becomes a star pupil. He loves going to class, reciting lessons, and writing new words. The story details how the colonial education system, introduced by missionaries, becomes not just an institution for learning but a tool of cultural transformation. Chike is taught not only the English language but also to view European culture as superior and traditional Igbo beliefs as ignorant or evil. This cultural indoctrination is subtle but powerful. For example, the school emphasizes the civilizing mission of Christianity in English education, often mocking or devaluing local customs and language. Chike, though young, absorbs these lessons quickly and uncritically. He begins to believe that English customs, dress, and speech are signs of enlightenment and that African traditions are backward. Yet, even as Chike adopts these colonial ideals, Achebe shows that he does so in a childlike and creative way. He is not a passive victim of colonialism but a curious, imaginative boy who delights in the beauty of sounds. He writes compositions filled with big, impressive words, not because he understands them, but because he loves how they feel on his tongue. His favorite phrase, periwinkle in the peripatetic perambulator, is pure nonsense, yet full of musicality and wonder. Through this humorous portrayal, Achebe gently critiques the colonial education system, which fills children's minds with European knowledge without contextual relevance. Chike's admiration for English is sincere, but it comes at the cost of understanding or appreciating his own cultural roots. His world is being shaped by values and systems that subtly erase or ridicule indigenous identity. The story does not end with a dramatic climax but rather with Chike lost in joyful imagination, reciting exotic English words, unaware of the deeper cultural conflicts they represent. He is absorbed in the beauty of language, blissfully unaware of how it shapes his view of himself and the world. Themes and analysis. Colonial education and cultural indoctrination. One of the central themes of the story is the impact of missionary and colonial education on African identity. Chike's school is not just a place of learning, it is an institution designed to replace indigenous culture with European values. The rejection of Igbo customs, the glorification of English, and the emphasis on Christian morality reflect the subtle cultural imperialism embedded in colonial education. Achebe critiques this through irony. While Chike's enthusiasm for language is portrayed affectionately, it also shows how children are alienated from their cultural heritage. They are taught to admire what is foreign and dismiss what is local. Language as power and play. Language in the story serves two roles. It is both a tool of colonial dominance and a source of delight and creativity. Chike's fascination with English words shows the magical power of language, especially for a child. He is captivated by the way words sound and feel, using them more for rhythm than meaning. Identity and belonging. Chike's background as the son of an Osu mother adds another layer to the story. In traditional Igbo society, Osu are outcasts, but in the Christian worldview adopted by his father, such distinctions are rejected. This shift places Chike in a unique position. He is no longer subject to caste discrimination, but his family is also cut off from the broader community. His identity is thus shaped by multiple layers of exclusion and acceptance, traditional rejection, Christian embrace, and colonial shaping. Innocence and irony. Chike is an innocent character, full of joy and imagination. He is not to blame for the ideological forces shaping him. Achebe uses Chike's innocence to create dramatic irony. Readers understand the implications of what Chike is absorbing, even though he does not. This technique allows Achebe to gently critique colonialism without bitterness, using humor and empathy instead. Conclusion. Chike's School Days is a charming yet layered story that captures the cultural complexities of colonial education in Nigeria. Through the eyes of a curious, joyful child, Achebe reveals how language, learning, and identity are shaped by larger historical forces. The story is not a condemnation, but a subtle, nuanced portrait of how colonialism reaches into personal lives, transforming worldviews even as it inspires wonder.